Okay, now when you've packed up your Vagabond, it's time to put it all together. The boat has been pulled apart for the transport, so you will have one monorail and you will have one rigger bar. Now this is like this has got to be mounted in a certain direction. When you put a monorail down upside down like this, the feet towards my right, it'll be your left, and these support bars will be on the front of the rigger bar, so you can actually pull them a little bit forward. We place this carefully on top of the mounting block, and now you've got 4 Allen keys bolts that you need to put in there. You can either use the tool on the bottom that's placed at the bottom of your of the feet, or you can use, like we do here, much faster, a electric drill. Very careful, very slow speed. When you do this, it's actually better to do this by hand, but when you put this in there, one bolt at a time, very careful, make sure they thread. This is stainless steel. Stainless steel is a real bugger when it starts going wrong, so very careful when you thread this. Careful, make sure you just get it to bite, all of them, all the bolts just biting, just threading, and of course I always lose one. There we go. What I've done now, I've got 4 bolts threaded, and then I take them carefully one at a time across, and I make sure that the gap here is staying the same. So this is exactly right, square and horizontal. I add the sun power on this, and then soon we're ready to put this into action. Like that. Now we're ready to put it to the boat. Okay, and now we're ready to get this rowing unit into the boat. So carefully take it, make sure you don't get your fingers caught in a sliding seat, because that can be sliding and it can actually hurt you quite well. And lift it straight into the boat, right into place, so the monorail ends up on the nut plates back and forth, back in the front, and here we go, in place. Ready for the next step. Okay, once we've got the monorail into place, what we do is we position it right over the nut plates, in the front and the back, and this is the first bolts we actually put on. So you put the bolt in the back, these long bolts, and one in the front, and then what we do is tighten by hand. We use the Allen key that's underneath the feet, and we can feel, when you do this by hand, you can actually feel how tight the bolts are, and very careful that they don't thread wrongly. At the moment you start feeling that that it's threading wrong, just back off and do this again. So one in the front and one in the back. First tighten the one slightly, then you tighten the other one slightly, and then you go back and you tighten them all the way. Not too hard, but just like enough that they're tight. And this will bring us to the next step on how we put the rest of the riggers on here. Okay, what we're going to do now, this next step is actually a very special special step, and we're only going to use it. It's not necessary that your boat will be this way. There are only a few boats that you need to do this on, and that is to line up the hole on the rigger to the hole on the side of the boat, because this plate is at an angle. And in this design at the moment as it is, we need to change the angle of that hole to get the right angle there. This is very special, it's not on all boats, so we just showed once. Now to make sure that we don't get, we're going to drill into this fitting here, and to make sure that we don't get any aluminium dust and things into the hole, we actually tape over the hole in the nut plate, just to stop any piece of fragments of aluminium to fall in there. And what we're going to do now, we're going to drill with a 6mm drill into the inward inward of these two holes on the rigger plate, and while I'm slowly turning the drill, I'm going to tilt the top of the drill out from the center of the boat, and this will give me a hole that's lined up with the hole in the side of the boat. Just some degrees, we don't need to do much, but this will make it easier for the bolt to fit into the nut plate. So when I start drilling now, at a very slow speed, I don't let the drill eat through the hole, I just leave it in the same place. We just need some more power on there. Slowly, while tilting it outwards, and now the hole is like getting a little bit oval, not much. And what we end up now with is careful that the drill don't eat into the whole plate here. That's enough. So what I've done now, I've actually tilted the drill while turning it slowly, just a couple of degrees outside, so that will line up my hole that I have a 90-degree angle onto the nut plate. But this is only for some boats, it's not necessary for all boats. This is a very special moment. Soon we won't need to have to do this anymore. Okay. Okay, for the next step, to attach the riggers to the hull, or the sides of the hull, you need basically the middle size or the medium size of the 3 pairs of bolts that followed with the boat, with the rig, and the spacer. The spacer you'll place between the fitting on the rigger and the nut plate on the hull. But before you do that, you make sure that you're actually lining up the hole in the inside of the two holes on the rigger fitting. Make sure the rigger fitting is square to the hull. Line it up with the hole in a nut plate. Adjust as much as you need to, and once you can actually see clearly through that hole, you know it's lined up, and then you tighten down the two nuts on the fitting on the rigger arm. Once that is tight, you've got your bolt with the washers into the hole, add a spacer, and then very carefully line it up with the whole plate in a nut plate and tighten it down. Just careful it doesn't thread wrongly. Feel after all the time. Stainless steel is nothing to play with if it starts threading wrong. This feels quite good to me. I just tightened all the way down to the bottom until it's tight. And here you can see I use the Allen key as a hand tool, not the electric, because here you can actually feel, make sure that everything is going right, and if anything will thread wrong, you will know about it quite soon. Okay, then we finish with that. Carry on to the next side. Okay, and now with the riggers in place, the next step will be to attach these stays, these supporting stays or braces. To do that, we need need to make sure that they are moving freely. So we undo the plastic caps, and then we use the 13 key wrench, and we undo them slightly until they're moving freely. The next step will be to take the shortest of the 3 pairs of bolts that you received with the rig, and we put this in with two small washers on the top, and then through the hole, and then we use the 3 big flat washers underneath, and we use them as spacers to make sure this is just being moved the right distance from the hull. Tighten this by hand first, and we get to the end of that, we tighten properly with the Allen key, not all the way but almost all the way, and then we go back again to where the rig is braced here. We push it as far in as we can, so we actually brace it as it's supposed to be. And once we've got it in place there, if you think this is too hard to do yourself, get somebody to help you. Then we tighten this in place properly that it doesn't move. When you're happy with that, we put the plastic caps back on again. And the last thing we need to do is just to make sure that it's properly tightened on the front here. So we use the Allen key again and just make sure this is tightened all the way. And your rigger should be in place,